Hello and welcome. So, you're gearing up for the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, and you know you're going to get hit with data migration questions. Here's the secret. It's not about memorizing every single service. It's about knowing which tool to grab for which job. In this explainer, we're going to break down AWS's key data migration services so you can walk into that exam and absolutely nail those questions. Let's get into it.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on the core problem, why moving huge amounts of data is so hard. Then, we'll look at the two big solutions, physically shipping your data with the Snow Family and migrating live databases online using DMS. We'll even see how they can team up. And we'll wrap it all up with a super simple cheat sheet to make sure this all sticks for your exam.
So you might be thinking, why can't we just upload everything to the cloud? It seems so simple. Well, the truth is, when you're talking about massive data sets, the internet itself becomes the problem. It just comes down to basic physics and bandwidth.
To really put this in perspective, just look at this number. If you wanted to transfer a pretty standard enterprise dataset, say 100 terabytes, over a normal 100 megabit per second connection, well, you'd be waiting for over 100 days. That's more than 3 months of just watching a progress bar. For any real business, that is a complete non-starter.
And this leads us to the fundamental question that AWS had to solve. If the network is the problem, what's the solution? Well, their answer is actually pretty elegant, and it's twofold. You either go around the network completely by physically shipping your data, or you use a specialized service that can migrate active systems online without causing a huge disruption. Let's dig into that first option, actually shipping it.
So how do you get around the internet? You literally mail your data. This is exactly where the AWS Snow Family comes into play. It's the go-to solution for when you have so much data, it is actually physically faster to put it on a truck than to try and send it over the internet.
And this definition right here tells you everything you need to know. The key phrases to lock in are rugged physical devices and bypassing the internet. This service isn't for when your connection is a little slow, it's for when your connection is completely useless for the amount of data you have, which could be anything from terabytes all the way up to exabytes. Okay, this table is pure gold for your exam. You absolutely need to know this. It really just comes down to matching the amount of data to the right device. If an exam question mentions terabytes, you should immediately think Snowcone. If they start talking about petabytes, your answer is Snowball Edge. And if you see the word exabytes or anything over 10 petabytes, well, that's a job for the Snowmobile. And yes, that is literally a 45-foot shipping container on the back of a semi-truck.
You know, the process itself is surprisingly easy. It's like AWS took the same logic they use for their e-commerce site and applied it to data migration. You just log into the AWS console, order a Snowball, it shows up at your door, you load your data onto it, ship it back, and boom, AWS puts it all into your S3 bucket for you. It's simple, but incredibly effective.
So shipping data is perfect for those big one-time data dumps. But what if your data isn't just sitting there? What if it's a live operational database that your business depends on every single second of the day? You can't just unplug that for a week to copy everything over. That's a totally different problem, and it needs a totally different tool. And that tool is the AWS Database Migration Service, or DMS. Now, pay really close attention to the last part of this definition. The absolute key phrase for your exam is that the source database remains fully operational. What does that mean? It means minimizing downtime. If you see an exam question about moving a production database while keeping an app online, your brain should immediately scream DMS. DMS is also incredibly flexible. It can handle 2 different types of migrations, and this is another concept you'll definitely see on the exam. A homogeneous migration is pretty straightforward. You're moving between the same kind of database, like from an Oracle database to another Oracle database. But heterogeneous migrations are where DMS really shines. This is when you can actually change database engines as part of the move, like going from Microsoft SQL Server to a cloud-native database like Amazon Aurora.
So how does DMS pull off this minimal downtime magic? It's all about this 5-step process. First, DMS makes a full copy of all your data. But, and this is the brilliant part, at the exact same time, it starts watching and capturing any new changes that are happening on your original database. This is called Change Data Capture, or CDC. So after that initial big copy is finished, DMS applies all those changes it was tracking, keeping the 2 databases perfectly in sync until you're ready to flip the switch. Okay, so we've seen the offline solution for bulk files and the online solution for live databases. But what happens when you have the worst of both worlds? a truly massive multi-terabyte database, and a really slow or unreliable network connection. Well, this is where AWS gets really clever and actually combines the two services. To pull this off, the whole process gets broken down into two distinct parts. Think of it like a dance. There's a local task that happens right there in your data center, and then there's a cloud task that kicks off after your data has physically arrived at an AWS facility.
Let's break this down. Look at the slide, starting on the left. The first part is the local task. You have DMS running inside your own data center, and its job is to copy the bulk of your database onto a Snowball Edge device. Then you ship that device off to AWS. Once it gets there, the cloud task begins. The data gets loaded from the Snowball into S3 and then into your new cloud database. And just like before, DMS uses change data capture to apply all of the changes that happened while that Snowball was on the truck. It really is the best of both worlds.
Okay, that was a lot. So let's boil it all down into one final cheat sheet. You're going to want to pay really close attention to this next slide. It's pretty much everything you need to know for the exam on this topic. When you're reading those exam questions, you're just looking for these keywords. If you see words like terabytes, petabytes, or exabytes, or if the scenario is all about a slow network for a one-time bulk transfer, your brain should immediately jump to the Snow family. On the other hand, if the question is about migrating a live database, and it mentions minimal downtime, or ongoing replication, or changing database types, the answer is going to be DMS, every single time. So let's recap the essentials one last time. The Snow family is for physically shipping bulk data. DMS is for the online migration of databases where you can't afford downtime, and when you put them together, that's your solution for enormous databases on a really bad network. Finally, memorize those keywords on the screen: petabyte, database, heterogeneous, CDC. They are your signposts that will point you directly to the correct answer on the exam. And that leaves us with one final thought. We always think of the cloud as this virtual wireless thing, right? But as the amount of data in the world just explodes, the physical limits of our networks become impossible to ignore. So you have to wonder, are we heading toward a future where shipping petabytes of data on a truck is just as normal as downloading a file? It's definitely something to think about. Good luck with your exam.